So my unit is Force in Motion, kindergarten science, and my objectives or my standards, are to plan and conduct an investigation to compare the effects of different strengths or differences or directions of pushes and pulls on the motion of an object. Analyze data to determine if a design solution works as intended to change the speed or direction of an object with a push or a pull. And for day one, my students will be able to investigate ways to make their object move or observe how other objects move, explain how they made their object move through discussion, test the different ways to make their objects move, and be able to write information on what they observe about their object. So my learning goals are met through that because I will have them I'll pretty much just explain what we're doing, show them the experiments or objects we're using, which will be balls, pool toys, sticks, pieces of wood, just like random stuff around the room, and basically say like you're going to make a track and you're going to make one of these objects move down it, and that's pretty much it. They're pretty much getting free range for that. So they will be learning different ways to make things move and watching other people's. And then I'll pick out three courses that are different and have the students watch them, and then we'll analyze them. It's differentiated because I have three different types of movements, and I'll be assessing them by listening to discussion. And then also we will be having a thinking log that we'll fill out at the end of that lesson, that they will draw a picture of their three trails or courses that they saw, and write a few words that I'll have kind of posted on the board of what the object did. Also, in this lesson, I have it as my lesson that could be virtual learning, which could also be tied into the classroom, so they're able to write 1 to 2 sentences like typing it, or they could write it with a pencil because they'll be in a classroom. They could record their voice saying it, or a video explaining what they're happening. So students will have multiple ways to get that to me, or get the information to me. Day 2, we are discussing what they observed about their own courses, and then with their others, discuss observations of movements of objects and reflect on what caused an object to move. So we're going to be talking about yesterday's movements, and I would record them if I needed to, and we'll talk about those, talk about the different movements that we saw, and again, I'll be assessing them mainly through discussions through that, and we will be asking questions that they had from yesterday, and by talking about these questions, we'll be picking a big idea for the next day. So I thought this was a good way for the students to control their own learning, or feel like they're controlling their own learning, because they'll have all kinds of questions, I'm sure, but I want to kind of push them into the direction of asking the question, what causes a push and what causes an object to move with a push or a pull. But I want to guide them into coming up with that question themselves, so they feel like they are thinking of, like, it's their own idea, it's something they want to learn. So then for day 3, we will be discussing our big question. So they'll investigate different types of movements on various materials, and they'll be doing that by walking around the classroom, moving things, deciding what's a push, what's a pull. The student will understand that the force they apply to an object causes a movement, so they're going to figure that out themselves, like the chair doesn't push in by itself, I have to move it, or something has to move it, and they're going to figure that out by their investigation. They'll investigate the cause of movements and are exploring and classifying them into 3 categories, which is push, pull, and both. And then they'll be able to answer the thinking log down, or their answers into their thinking log, which will be a chart in their thinking log. So they will be told to walk around the room, find things that push, pull. Know that they'll be looking for that, and then they'll come back to me and tell me some of the things that they were able to push, like chairs, doors, cupboards, things like that. And then we'll be talking about what is a push and what is a pull, because the question we are investigating is how can I push an object to make it move, and how can I pull an object to make it move. And then once we discuss this, we'll be writing some examples down on the board, and then they'll go to their thinking logs again and then writing I think blah 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 is a pull because, and then draw a picture of it. They can draw a picture of it, they can talk into it, just like I've said before with the virtual learning thing. They could record their voice, they could record their video, they could write it down, whatever works best for them. And then moving on to day 4. This day we're gonna talk about negotiations and claims. So we'll talk about, once again, yesterday's big idea, what causes an object to push, what causes an object to pull. We'll go over the negotiation rules, which will be posted on the board. And then I'll be assessing them formatively by role-playing a lot. So I want the student to come up with a claim, like, I think blah, 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 because blah, blah, blah. So they need to have a fact or their opinion and then a claim to back it up. And we would have gone over the negotiation rules before doing the role-playing. Then we'll go to their thinking logs and we'll ask the students if they drew a push, pull, or both, and then they say that in their thinking log they would have said this is a push, and then today I want them to say this is a push because, so then they're backing up their claim. Once again, they will be able to write, draw, record pictures, whatever works for them, and then they could also tell it to me so I could assess them that way. Also, and then this takes us to day 5, where we will be talking about the definitions, finally, of a push and a pull. So all of this stuff, I want them, all up until day 5, they're pretty much doing the learning. They're learning it by doing it. And then day 5, we're going to learn the actual definitions of what a push is and what a pull is. And then we'll tie it back to day 4 lesson, which would be yesterday's lesson, and say that it's okay to change your negotiation and claim after finding out more information. And so then we'll go back and they'll write whether they think their claim is the same or whether they think it's different from learning the facts of what a push is and what a pull is. And I will be assessing them overall by looking at their thinking logs of every single day. And I will be using those as an everyday assessment, but I will also be using that as the final assessment, so that will be kind of used for both things. Every lesson is connected to an everyday life, because every day we're moving stuff, things are moving, I'm moving things, they're moving things, they're pushing things, they're pulling things. The lesson is structured out, starting off really slow, and then finally at the end gaining the big idea, just so they can feel like they pretty much learn the information by themselves instead of a teacher just lecturing, this is this, this is this, and it makes it more fun, it makes it more engaging, it makes it more hands-on, it makes it more real life. And that was kind of my idea around this lesson. There was also all kinds of variety of strategies and activities and resources, because they will be doing lots of hands-on activities, different strategies, because every student is going to come up with a different track, and every student's going to find a different thing to push or a different pull, and then their reasoning is going to be different. But it'll all tie back into the last day, where we learn the definitions of what a push and a pull is, and then they can say, I am right, or my thinking was right all this week because, or my thinking has changed because. So that's how it ties into that. And then it aligns with my learning goals, because the main goal for them was to learn what a push and a pull was, and force and motion. So pretty much all week it just slowly started off by they're just playing around with things that move, and then come to find out it's moving because of this scientific thing that they have eventually found out about by their own learning and experimentation and everything like that. So, and then there's also many ways to communicate, because I'll allow them to show me in person. I'll allow them to videotape it. I will be observing them when they don't know that I'm watching them, and they'll also be writing it down in their thinking log. So all kinds of different type of learning strategies going on, and assessment, constantly assessing, constantly watching, constantly listening, constantly, and every day they're turning something in. So yeah, and then that is the whole gist of my lesson.